Today, we begin making Montana a playground for the elite.
We're going back in time to 1923, behind the scenes of Paramount's hit show about the Dutton family, with production designers Cary and Lisa Ward. How many people do you have working with you to create all these sets? How many different, teams are there, and how many people have different responsibilities?
Well, the first season was unusual for me because we had 3 different art departments in 3 continents. We had Montana, we had South Africa, and we had Malta. Now, this second season, we had a lot of art directors because we weren't all over the world. We did so many towns, so many trains, built so many sets, 143 or something.
So what choices did you make when, designing the Dutton home? Just because it's so iconic from Yellowstone, and now we're going back years into 1923.
They were shooting the 5th season of Yellowstone when we started in 1923. And for a while we thought about try to use the same place, which is outside of Darby, Montana. But that wasn't going to work. And so we fortunately had a photograph of 1917 when they were building that place. And we did the same angle on the existing place. And so we built it on a place outside of Butte, Montana. The exterior is in one place, the interior is in another. And with the interior we built and matched exactly what was there in the Dutton house.
So that home is based on Chief Joseph Lodge, and that was a selection that was made, very first season of Yellowstone, beloved Yellowstone. And it's really stood up, and I think it's become, just as you said, the lodge has become this iconic structure, and in a way it's a character itself, and in a way it's the one character that ties all these different series together.
So you kind of talked about it being almost a character in itself. Was there a certain kind of mood you wanted to create when designing it?
I think what's beautiful about the lodge is that it's diverse enough that it can have multiple characters. And another really big character, especially in season 2 of 1923, is the winter. The winter is the dominant force that's shaping the Montana piece of this story. And so for that, we really got to, along with Ben Richardson, our director, and Corin Hodgson, our DP, we really got to play with that idea of sort of the darkness inside the lodge, that glow of snow from the outside, and really the warm fire, and really trying to give the sense of being protected by the walls of that structure. And as the plot continues and the drama continues, we really feel the security of that space. But at the same time, there are these wonderful moments where, a character wakes up and it's the first sunny day in many, many weeks, and you see the sun streaming into that great room. And I think that that's something that Taylor has really hit upon that's so important to so many people is sort of generational memory in spaces, and how important the lodge is to that family, because they have that generational memory. I mean, they know the squeak of every floorboard, and they know, just how the light enters the space in different seasons. And I think that that's something that becomes really important to individuals and to families, to really root them in one place.
What other sort of influences did you have when designing the Dutton Ranch?
The ranch itself, the barn complex, was a whole different thing. And the house was the ranch headquarters, but we needed to do the Dutton barn complex, corrals, outbuildings, all that. And Lord, we were under the gun to get everything built. So we found this period barn complex that was close to where we were building our exterior, and I sent pictures of it to Taylor and pitched it to him, and he said, "I don't hate it." So okay, I took that as a big thumbs up. And so the only problem was everything was painted red, and he didn't like the red because Yellowstone barns are white. So we had to go back and paint everything white. and then we put the Yellowstone brand on a few of them.
In 1923, we see the Duttons go into town a lot, into Bozeman. What kind of photos and videos did you use as inspiration to kind of recreate that time period in Bozeman?
We used Butte, which is right down the road from Bozeman, to create Bozeman. And Butte was this copper mining boom town. And actually, several years before we did 1923, for Yellowstone, I was scouting the city of Butte and looked around and went, man, this is a perfect place to do a 1920s period piece. Little knowing that several years later I'd be doing exactly that.
What are some of those details that I guess you wanted to bring to life to kind of give each town their own personality and uniqueness?
Well, one thing that we looked at a lot was the size of each town, how many people were living there, what kinds of things those people were doing, sort of what their trades and jobs were. And that helped us really decide on, if you're looking down a street, what types of shops you're seeing, what do the people in those towns need? One example I can think of is we found these like really incredible photos of tire shops in the 1920s, which was a new thing at the time because people were just starting to own vehicles. And, we were really drawn in with these tire shops because they would just have beautiful stacks of tires on either side and really wonderful graphics. And so that was something that we felt would tie in really nicely with the town of Amarillo. And so there's a tire shop in those scenes. And that's just one example. But for Amarillo, we really wanted to tie into the ranching culture of that place. And so we included a rifle shop. We included a hat shop and a furrier. There was a leather shop. And so we worked really closely with our set deck team, with Carla Curry and our set deck team, to really tap into things that would have been in Amarillo. And same thing for Anadarko, same thing for Bozeman, and it's really fun, I think, to get into that level of detail.
You try to pick out the most iconic images that will take you back to that period. The cars do it, of course. The Model Ts there will work. The director wanted to do fill a parking lot there in Butte, which was across from the courthouse, and we had the Duttons going to the courthouse, and he wanted to be a winter festival there. So we created that and put some signage there and did everything that would take you back to 1923. The problem is that, I've just been watching the dailies, not the dailies, but the show, and maybe 20% of what you do gets in. But the problem is you just don't know which 20%. They're shooting 5 cameras all over the place. So you just try to put as many iconic images as you can around and just hope for the best. There's You Need a Biscuit billboard we stuck up that has made it in a bunch of shots, and it helps sell the period because it goes back a little before 1923, but it's certainly not 2023.
One of the fascinating storylines, I think, is Spencer's journey, basically from Africa, all the way to Montana. What kind of research was done for the landscape and sets of Africa, and even in Europe and Italy, when we're following Spencer?
The safaris were very big back in the 20s, so there were a lot of good photographs to go pull from, like that vehicle that we had to do 5 of those safari vehicles because for the elephant attack, and we picked out the elements and built 5 of those trucks to serve different purposes.
We were creating an entire Wesley Holland safari camp to match the Wesley Holland safari camp in Africa, in Park City, in a huge soundstage in Park City. And that was a moment of real collaboration between our sort of stateside art department and our wonderful art department in South Africa, because they were designing an entire, safari camp, and we had to recreate the exact same thing on a soundstage in Park City. And so there was a lot of back and forth. They actually even sent us tents. They sent us duplicate tents so that the tents would match perfectly with the tents that they were going to set up, so that we had no continuity issues. And tied to that, we had to recreate with LiDAR scanning an exact replica of a tree that they were going to be shooting in Africa. And so they were able to LiDAR scan that, send that to our team, and then our team was able to sculpt that and build that so that it could support the weight of a real animal who acted in some of those scenes. And it was really incredible because once we had everything set up, we had 2 entire stages filled with grass, tents set up. You walked onto that stage, and because of the fabric of the tents, it smelled like Africa. Those tents had come over and they had like a very particular smell. And so you were just transported to this place, which was something that was unexpected and really magical. But yeah, we had to be very careful about continuity between those 2 sets.
We had to import, we couldn't find a leopard in Africa to work. We imported a Hollywood leopard and then took him to Park City.
The other major benefit is that we were able to work with an animal that the director and the producers really felt would be able to help them recreate the drama of this attack and this leopard attack. And none of that would have been possible outside, and none of that would have been possible in Africa. So those were the main drivers of trying to do that duplicate set. And the other sort of advantage we had working to us was that the work in Africa was predominantly daylight work. The work that we were doing, the primary sort of leopard attack scene, happens at night. And so we were able to do the duplicate work as night work.
With Spencer's journey, he goes to, so many different places, Africa, Italy, Mumbai.
Yeah.
Were there any challenges with so many different locations in one character's journey? Were there any things that popped up throughout the filming where you had to, I guess, change something or adjust?
We were in South Africa and we get a script about a turned upside down tugboat. Whoa. So there was a tank in Cape Town, but it wasn't deep enough for the tugboat. So we moved the entire company to Malta. And they had a nice deep tank there. And that plaza was there in Malta, and it was supposed to be this hotel exterior overlooking the azure waters of the Mediterranean there. And so we kind of created that outdoor cafe there outside in Malta.
I want to finish up with Tiana's journey because we get a real insight into the Native American culture, especially at that time.
Yeah.
What kind of research did you do to make sure you matched what it was like back then?
We are really, really lucky in that since I have been involved in working on these projects with Taylor, which for me was season 3 of Yellowstone, we have had a continuous relationship with Mo Brings Plenty, who has been an incredible advisor. And he not only advises us with photos and stories and research, but he also connects us to other Native people. And because we have been in so many different geographic locations, we've had the opportunity of creating villages that represent many different tribes throughout the West. And he has been very careful about introducing us to different representatives from each of those tribes who even come in and help us set up teepees, and then help us get into real specifics about exactly what poles we would be using on those teepees, how the teepee would be put together, what kind of material would be used for the door flap, what kinds of, if we ever see into the lodges, what kind of things would be inside those lodges, whether or not there would be dried meat hanging. And it's another one of those sort of gifts I think that Taylor has given, which is the ability to get to explore this, especially through Tiona's eyes. Getting, I think for me as a woman, getting to have a female character who were telling this story through. And I think there's been so much in the news in recent years, particularly exposing people's experience at those schools. And so in addition to working with Mo, obviously we did a huge amount of photo research to try to get as close as we could to recreating the sort of institutional buildings that these children would have been living in.
In a series that spans the entire globe, Cary White and Lisa Ward perfected what life was like in 1923. What's your favorite set location in 1923? Comment down below. And thanks so much for watching. Stay tuned for more exclusive behind-the-scenes insights from your favorite TV shows and films.